Good morning and welcome to the fourth hour of the Greg Belfrage Show. It's really great to have you along this morning. Let's pick up on things. I mentioned this during the radio show this morning. Um, there are a couple of pieces over at PJ Media by Stephen Cruiser. Um, I like the writing of Stephen Cruiser for a number of reasons. He's very conservative, very funny as well. He's got a piece this morning. I'm so here for the madness of a potential Trump RFK Jr. alliance. We talked about that on the radio show this morning as to whether RFK Jr. Um, will endorse Donald Trump and what that might mean if he does. I continue to believe it's going to be a good thing that Donald Trump may be involved in a very close race. I shared some of those polls on the air yesterday in Pennsylvania. These were unaffiliated voters. In other words, independent and unaffiliated voters who are leaning very much Trump. They're leaning Trump by 10%, over 10% in Philadelphia. And how that might make a excuse me, it's my medications that do that to me that, cause me to cough. It's just a dry cough. Um, so forgive me, I lost my thought here as we're talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and what he might bring to the Trump ticket then, especially as I was saying, you know, unaffiliated voters in Philadelphia or, excuse me, in Pennsylvania rather, Pennsylvania. Trump is up by over 10%, a 10% margin over Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania among unaffiliated voters. So those are the folks who might make a difference when you consider that. And then you've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and him joining the potentially, might he actually endorse Donald Trump and then receive a cabinet position in the Trump campaign? It's pretty clear that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That's what he's shooting for. He knows. I think has seen the writing on the wall. He knows he's not going to win, but does he have something to offer? And when it comes to Donald Trump, I think he does. I absolutely think he does. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. And so Stephen Cruiser's got this piece this morning saying he's very much in favor of it. I want to see his closing. He said, it's true. All of this is just speculation. It's not, um, however, it's not at all out of the realm of possibility. Trump wants to win, and Kennedy, no doubt, has some revenge on his mind with the Democrats. It would be fun to see the man that all of the squishy Republicans whine about being too polarizing join forces with the most prominent Democratic name of the last 6+ decades to thwart the commie ticket that is officially being thrust upon us this week in Chicago. Yeah, it certainly would be interesting. And Cruiser says he's all in on that. He's also got another piece this morning. I'm still clinging to my guns and religion now more than ever. Yeah, me too. I feel that way as well. I'm still clinging to my guns and religion, despite being mocked by Hillary Clinton and others. Let's see what other news is out there this morning. This is from Fox News, foxnews.com. Abortion palooza at DNC could force pro-life Democrats to ditch the party. It's just absolutely disgusting, is the quote they use at foxnews.com. So, Democrats for Life of America executive director Kristen Day told Fox they're degrading human life and women for that matter. It's just absolutely disgusting. This continued celebration of abortion Again, this is coming from Democrats, who, pro-life Democrats who are don't appreciate the stance the party is taking and where they're going. And she said, "I think this convention is, uh, has become an abortion palooza. In response to them providing abortions, we would provide actual support to women in need. So we started a diaper drive to do just that." A pretty incredible pro-life Democrats. They've been a force before. Might they be again? Let's go to Axios. Left-leaning Axios has a story this morning. Latinos say Kamala Harris is better on border security. What? What? What in the hell is this? Let's go take a look. Um, Nearly half of all Latinos in a who did this poll? Axios Vibes. So this is an Axios Vibes survey. In other words, trash. Uh, um, Nearly half of all Latinos, 49%, think Kamala Harris is better on border security than, oh, excuse me, better than Joe Biden. So they think she'd be better on border security than Joe Biden. Only 19% believe she's about the same. 27% say she's worse. So among Latino voters, 55% say Harris is better or about the same as Biden on that issue. It'll be interesting to see what they're saying. So again, how Kamala Harris compares to Joe Biden, who cares? I'm interested in how Latinos feel about Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. Because Joe Biden, with no disrespect to the president intended, he's out of the picture. I mean, he is no longer running for reelection. So, but banished now after Monday's debacle of, you know, um, speaking at 10:30 on Monday night. And again, Democrats are, excuse me, Democrats are saying that was, all the speakers went long. It was all, they wouldn't cut their speeches short. They just went on too long. And so because people got pushed further and further back. And so the president wasn't able to speak until 10:30 on Monday night. To which I say, okay, let's see what happens tonight. Tim Walz will be speaking tonight at the Democratic National Convention. Let's see what happens tonight. Will Tim Walz speak on schedule, or will once again we see a long night of delays? He's going to be speaking on schedule. The whole thing's a sham that somehow, you know, oh, we're really sorry we had two speakers going on too long, and we actually cut people. We actually cut people who were going to speak. Uh, give, give, give me a break. Nobody. It's just more lies. Another day, more lies to digest. Just incredible. But this is interesting. Latinos saying, really, will she do any better on border security than Joe Biden? Again, I'm a little surprised that that's the survey because it's old news. It's old news. She is the nominee. Doesn't matter how she compares to Joe Biden. I'm curious to see how Latinos think that of her versus Donald Trump, because that's going to be the matchup. Anything else is just kind of a waste of time. Also, we had another group of anti-Israel activists yesterday. They tried to storm a Jewish event that was near the Democratic National Convention yesterday, and, um, they were masked, calling for the end of Israel. Same thing that we hear every time. Brick by brick, wall by wall, Zionism has got to fall, shouting shame on you at participants. So many advocacy groups host events near the conventions, and then they invite, politicians who are there to come and speak. And so the organizers of Jewish events at the DNC have had to refrain from publicizing the location of their events because of these nuts. Or, um, and again, I shared on the program this morning the problems that they caused near the Democratic National Convention yesterday, and these people are just absolutely, off their rockers, these folks. Also, story this morning, this is new, I haven't seen this before. Newsmax, 50 Republican military vet lawmakers have signed a letter condemning Tim Walz. So these are lawmakers, Republicans, who have served in the military. They've now signed a document condemning Tim Walz for making egregious misrepresentations about his 24 years in the Army National Guard. So the document was sent under a letterhead from the campaign of Trump and JD Vance today, and Politico received a copy of the letter. Newsmax is reporting on it as well. So this comes after congressional Democrats last week signed a letter calling for attacks on Wall's service record to stop. Well, doesn't look like it's going to stop. And I think this letter says, "You have stated that you are damn proud of your service. Like any American veteran, you should be." But they said there is no honor in lying about the nature of your service. Among the letter signers was Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, also Rick Scott of Florida, Wicker of Mississippi, and Roger Marshall of Kansas, among a number of other Republicans who signed the letter. They tell Walz in the letter that he had violated the trust of our brothers and sisters in arms. So a spokesperson for Walz asked for a comment and just pointed to the statement by Democrats who had supported him. What else is what else is new? JD Vance apparently saying the media uses fake polls to drive down Republican turnout. And the Examiner says, is he right? That's the headline. So this was during, I think this is a follow-up to an interview on Fox News Sunday. Host Shannon Bream talked to Senator J.D. Vance, and the polls showing Kamala Harris leading Trump by 5 points in Arizona, up 2 points in North Carolina. So she referenced these national surveys. And Vance said that his response was the media uses fake polls to drive down Republican turnout and to create dissension and conflict with Republican voters. I'm telling you, every single person who's watching this, the Trump campaign is in a very, very good spot. We're going to win this race. We just have to run through the finish line. So JD Vance, very dismissive, saying the media uses fake polls. I believed that for a long time. That a lot of these legacy media polls, they're fake, they're phony, they're designed to try to produce a certain outcome. They are not meant to reflect an honest representation of how people are feeling at the moment. They are meant to produce a certain outcome. I think JD Vance is absolutely right about that. It's one of the reasons why I really tend to shy away from polls. Um, don't mention them, and the media loves polls and they love to live. Um, and so this piece at the Examiner says, is Vance right or is he in deep denial? There are indications that Vance may be onto something. And this goes on talking about the New York Times, Siena College polls, because Republican pollster Rasmussen, which is known for its accuracy, released very different numbers the previous day, different from the New York Times and Siena College. So, and this just goes on. Very interesting piece. Again, this is at the Washington Examiner this morning, and it's under the banner Restoring America. JD Vance says the media uses fake polls to drive down Republican turnout. Is he right? Absolutely. I absolutely believe that he's right about that. So we've got the day 3 now of the Democratic National Convention. So what is on the agenda for tonight? Tim Walz will be speaking tonight. He's expected to deliver the keynote address. He will officially accept the vice presidential nomination, and this will be his introduction then on the national stage. Also at the Democratic National Convention today, Democrats will hear from former President Bill Clinton, also former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. So that, though, they will be among the speakers coming up. Tim Walz, and again, it'll be interesting to see whether or not is Tim Walz going to be delayed in the same kind of fiasco that we saw Joe Biden being delayed on Monday night. Well, of course not. Of course not. Biden, I continue to believe, and you cannot convince me otherwise. I continue to believe that Democrats just shoved him off, not ready for prime time, shoved him into 10:30, knowing that a number of folks would no longer be watching. So we'll see what happens tonight. Will Tim Walz be speaking? Pretty much, maybe a little bit delayed. You have speakers that go long. Will there be a delay? If there is, it will be slight. It will be slight. We will not be seeing Tim Walz speaking tonight at 10:30. You know what I mean? All right. I want to take a look at some of your comments. I really appreciate those of you who are here. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Jonathan asked the question, does Trump have to somehow disclaim some of RFK Jr.'s somewhat crazy ideas? Steve said Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK. RFK creeps me out. He's anti every vaccine, not just COVID. If he can help, great, but I'd steer clear of him. Yeah, I don't know that I would put him in charge of, I'd be very careful what I would, if you give a cabinet position to RFK, yeah, I'd be really careful about where I put him. You want him on a short leash. I agree with you. John, hey, welcome, John. I'm glad you found us today. John was bummed out yesterday. I apologize for the delay yesterday. I was signed in under the wrong Google account. I have a personal Google account, and then I've got a work Google account. Our company uses Gmail and Google, as a lot of companies do. So I was not logged in under my business Google account. I was logged in on my personal one. So when I went to log in, it told me 24 hours remain before you can stream. I'm like, what happened? What went wrong? I'm an idiot. That's all. Just had to relax, take another look at it. So my apologies. John said, "My favorite explanation was they ran late because of the applause." I agree. Um, he said, "I guess they didn't think anybody would clap." Yeah, that's just such a joke. Don't believe it. That's not true. Not true at all. Steve said the numbers depend on whom you ask. I agree. If you poll the newsroom rather than regular people, you will get the numbers that New York Times, I think he's saying that the Times put out. Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder that. Is this a poll of the newsroom or is this an actual poll of Main Street people on Main Street? You know, common sense kind of perspective that I think a good number of Americans have, not all. Oh, I know some crazy Americans on Main Street. It's just like these are the times we live in, unfortunately. A lot of absolute craziness that's going on out there. I want to thank you very much for letting me join you this morning. I want to ask you once again to please hit that like button. It's really important. Now, again, our numbers have grown. The number of people who have become subscribers to the Greg Belfrage Show page on YouTube has grown from 25 to over 180 that I saw yesterday. Well over slightly over 180 that are subscribers now to my content on YouTube. So it's a slow process. It's one of the reasons why I said starting out, I'll give it a year. Let's see where we're at in a year. After a year of doing this, providing I'm still around, after a year of doing this, take another look. And if I'm confident that we're showing some, kind of positive growth, we'll continue we'll continue. So we'll see where we're at and we'll go from there. In the meantime, though, I'm committed to a year and I'll be here, God willing, and just keep doing it. This earlier time frame, the 9:30 YouTube show, is a lot easier than the 11:30 show used to be because I gave that a try and was doing okay, and folks were responding much like you are now. The problem at 11:30 was it really interfered with other things that I've got to do, um, on the job. I wear multiple hats here. Not only hosting the morning show, but I'm also the brand manager of the station, and I'm responsible for other things and involving the radio station. Um, and what I found was that 11:30 time slot just took me away from my other programming duties. Just became too difficult. And I wound up then working incredibly long days. And I thought, yeah, 61 years old. I'm 61. I'm not a young guy anymore. And I'm not trying to pretend that I'm a young guy anymore. Um, and especially since the stroke, I'm just not the same person I was prior to the stroke. And in some ways, better. Honestly, my weight is down, my blood pressure is down, I'm in a lot of ways, I'm healthier, but that stroke and again, what happened just to detail it very quickly, you've got 2 arteries that are running up the back of your neck and delivering blood to your brain. One side had completely clotted. I mean, it was a complete clot. The other side was clotting o occasionally. So there would be times when the blood was going okay, other times when it would be cut off, and I was having these episodes where, man, suddenly, I would have to grab a hold of the wall so I wouldn't fall. I'd be walking down the hallway at work. Man, I'd grab a hold of the wall, otherwise I was gonna fall on my face, you know? That was the life I was living. So they put that stent in, and again, I will go in for another a checkup following the surgery coming up later this year. But they're telling me, hey, everything's looking great. We're really pleased with your progress. You just keep doing what you're doing. Um, but I'll tell you what, I've noticed some significant differences, and I'm just glad to be here. Make no mistake, I'm glad to be alive. Um, but when you have a stroke like that, and so they put the stent in, but again, I've only got blood moving up on the into the one side of my brain, and they said your body's going to compensate for that. And the last time that I was in, this was last fall, they said, we're actually starting to see even a little bit that clot on the other side um, breaking up a little bit. We're seeing some change there. We're seeing some movement. So now that the blood is flowing and so on, you know, um, but I can really notice the difference in a lot of ways. And part of it is I don't know if it's old age or still a result of the stroke where I have difficulties finding the word I want. Some of that is, I think, just old age. I'm 61. And I think that's going to get more challenging for me because and it happened to me this morning on the air. It's like, where's that? Man, there's a certain phrase I say every day, and and it's not there. And you start to panic because I'm in front of the mic and I gotta have words coming out of my mouth, you know? Um, that gets to be trying for me sometimes. And I really appreciate your patience despite the fact that, I've been through that and I'm suffering those things. You guys are just so incredibly loyal. And I'm so grateful, um, for those who listen to the radio show, those of you who are taking the extra step to, take in the fourth hour of the Greg Belfrage show. That means so much to me. And the emails that I get from folks, I don't want to create a perception with you that I'm inundated by glowing emails. That's not the case. But the emails that I receive mean a lot to me. And folks are just really, really complimentary. And I mentioned one this morning with somebody who listens down in Florida. And I thought, what is somebody in Florida? And I don't want to judge people based on their names, but it it didn't look like somebody was from this area and then he moved down to Florida. More likely, it's I'm curious how he found me because I hear from folks every now and then who listen. I got Chuck down in Florida who listens fairly regularly, emails me. Um, Folks find me in that way, and I get emails from them once in a blue moon. I get an email from somebody who says, "This is how I found you, and I'm down here, and man, I love your show." I'm just blown away by how gracious people are. My listeners are. They're just incredibly gracious to me. And whether they're here in Sioux Falls like me, or whether they're out of state or way out of state. And, then I hear the stories and I get the emails, folks who are activated um, and serving active duty military overseas, and they listen to the show on the KELO app when they can. They will catch it on the KELO app because it brings them closer to home. They want to know what's going on at home. Um, it's pretty amazing. So the way all of you respond to me has just been incredibly phenomenal. I'm just wildly grateful for that. Um, and I give thanks often for all of you. So if you would do me the incredible honor by hitting the like button, makes an incredible difference on YouTube if you hit that like button, even if you don't like what I'm saying. and that's okay. Just drop me an email, send a comment, whatever. I can, you know, I appreciate the fact that, reasonable people can disagree about things, right? And so that I'm never put off by that. I always love hearing from you, whether it's via email, whether it's during the show, whether it's here on YouTube, really makes a difference. So thank you so much for being there every day. I appreciate it greatly. I want to see what else you're saying. David said, "So you're working with half your brain tied behind your back." No, no, I never could, as Rush Limbaugh often said on his program. Jonathan, I love this. When my doctor asks me if I suffer from dizzy spells, I tell him that I rather enjoy them. Yeah. Uh, Steve said it's just age related. You have too much stuff up there, takes longer to sort through it all. There is some truth to that. I just wonder if some of it is age because I work with, we all age differently. And my boss is about my age. He and I are about the same age. And he's recalling things and whatnot. And I go, you got to help me out there. I don't quite remember that. Then he'll say something additional, and I'll go, okay, yeah, okay, now I remember. Yep. Um, he recalls it right off the top of his head. I don't have the ability to do that like I used to. My memory is not, and I have wondered as to whether there is some memory supplements that are out there, whether they work or is it, because you hear the ads and it's always like, "Oh, wonderful, man. My memory's gonna be restored. I'm gonna be," you know, um, I don't know if that's gonna be the case for me since that stroke. The stroke definitely played a role because I can tell you, um, when I stand up, for instance, wow, I can tell the difference. And it's really not unusual, and they told me especially, my doctors were really clear, "Hey, when you wake up in the morning, don't jump out of bed. Sit up, take a moment, then stand up, get your bearings before you start walking. Let that blood kinda," and they've been absolutely right about that. So even in the studio when I'm on the air in the morning, when I get up, I I have to stand up and I take a step away or two away from my chair and I grab a hold of the counter and I may stand there for a moment and get my bearings before I actually start walking. I don't just like jump out of the chair and off like a shot. Yeah, those days are over because I'll be a crumpled pile on the floor if I do that. So the stroke is obviously affected me, but despite that, again, thanks to doctors. I mean, I pray for my doctors every morning. I say prayers for them every morning by name, because what they did for me is just absolutely incredible and really kind of. And my message to you would be, I am, and I've been told this by the surgeon that operated on me, as well as by my family doctor, my regular doctor, who's also a great guy. Um, they've told me, they're telling their patients, you're going to have to do this if, or this is going to happen. So these are changes we're suggesting you make. And here's why. And the number of people who just say, no, no, I'm not going to do that, refuse to change. I got to tell you, that's been pretty surprising to me because, and I told my doctors, hey, the reason I'm in the hospital is because my way wasn't working, right? I was doing what I wanted to do. My way wasn't working. And that's why I found myself in that position with a stroke. And as my doctors told me afterward, likely multiple strokes. I had multiple strokes. So that explains a lot, I think, about me. Those of you who know me, explains a lot, right? Um, but when you learn that you've had multiple strokes, uh, why wouldn't you change your behavior? And some people don't. They say, "Nope, man, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing." And I don't wanna do those things, refuse to do them. And I am like, "Hey, I'd like to be around for a while yet. I'm not ready to be done. I know my day is coming, but I'm not ready to be done yet." Um, so yeah, I follow my doctor's advice, but I'm just amazed that so many people don't. So if your doctor's telling you to do something and why, hey, there's nothing wrong with getting another opinion. There's nothing wrong with seeking out another doctor, but just dismissing it out of hand. Um, I'm surprised my doctors tell me a number of people do that. No, I'm not going to do that. Not interested in any debate. I'm just not going to do it. And as I said, it became really clear to me that if I wanted to be around, in a year from now, yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna have to change the way I live. So I've been very good about sticking to my medications. I'm on them every generally I take my medications in the evening and every night without fail. Man, I take my whether it's my blood pressure meds, and then there's one blood thinner that I'm on due to the stint and the stroke. So I'm on a blood thinner, which is sadly I can't donate blood any longer because of that. But I take my meds every evening. It's a fistful of them that I take every night. But I'm glad to do so and glad to be around. So I've gone on way long enough today. I want to thank you for being here. Again, hit that like button, hit the it makes a big difference. If you got like-minded friends, let them know what we're doing. Ask them to become subscribers. If you're watching this and you're not a subscriber on YouTube, please think about doing it. I know some people have an aversion to YouTube. They don't like YouTube. One of the things I like about YouTube is it's free. When I was streaming before, I was paying for services. I was paying for them out of my own pocket. YouTube's free, and that's why I use YouTube. Just pure, it's already up and running. It's a major platform. A lot of people are on it, but it's free. And the only criteria I had to meet was I had to have 25 subscribers before I could start streaming live. And you answered my call, which I greatly appreciate. And again, my numbers now are up above over 180. So if you'll consider subscribing, if you're not a subscriber already, it would be very much appreciated. So we'll leave it there for now. I've got work to do, believe it or not. I want to wish you a great day. Thank you so much for being here. Take care. See you next time, my friend. So long until then.